Hey, so everyone, welcome. This is our bridge forum for January, and this is probably the bridge forum that's going to span the most time zones. So our first presenter is going to be Catherine Jenkins, who is joining us from here in Utah, and then Simona is joining us from Italy, where it is 2 in the morning. So we're super grateful that she was able to join us, and we're really grateful for both these presentations. And with that, I'll just pass the time over to Catherine to be our first presenter.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you guys see that? Hopefully that works. All right, so I'm excited to be here. The project that I'm here to talk about is Forgotten Branches. It started during my Family Search Community Tree Building internship, which was during the spring semester of 2024, and then I continued it again in the fall semester of 2024. I have now graduated, but this is still a project that I'm continuing, and I honestly plan to do it in some fashion my whole life. So it's near and dear to my heart. So Forgotten Branches is about documenting and connecting individuals back to their family tree who died in asylums and other similar places. I worked specifically on the Salt Lake City Asylum and the Utah State Hospital. Initially, when I started this, I had these lofty goals that I would be able to do other asylums outside of Utah. And that's still the ultimate goal for what I'd like to do, but these two took all of my time. So it started really because I found an article about this asylum, and the graves were kind of being memorialized. And so it really spoke to me, and I wanted to know more. And so I started looking into that. But basically, when a patient died at the Utah State Hospital, they would either have a family member come get the body and bury it with their family plot, or if the family didn't want to, or there wasn't any family they could find, or they couldn't afford to, those patients were put in unmarked graves, also known as paupers' graves sometimes. Um, there were well over 600 people that had been placed in these graves. And up until 8 to 10 years ago, they remained unmarked and unknown. A memorial has now been placed with the names of the patients that were buried there. Genealogists before me looked into that, so I didn't do that, but they found the death records and figured that out, got that memorial placed. My question became, are these patients on Family Search, and are they connected to a family tree? The Salt Lake City Asylum and Hospital was open from 1870 to 1886, and there were about 55 unmarked graves at the Salt Lake City Cemetery. And then the Utah State Hospital in Provo, also known as the Territorial Insane Asylum and the Utah State Training School, it still exists, but it started in 1885, and there were 607 paupers' graves there that were found. And you would be shocked at how many exist throughout the country. And so this would be a great project for anyone. And just still have likely not been connected or put on Family Search, or at least connected onto a family. So it's possible that they're on Family Search, but their death information is likely not on there. And so it's a really great project, and something that's why it can span my entire life. There was a big stigma around mental health care and disability. There still is. But for many families, especially back in the early 20th century and late 19th century, many families left these individuals off of their family trees and didn't record them. And so it's just taken a lot of time piecing that together. Before I get much farther, I want to talk about my why. I'm hoping you will also kind of take a minute to think about why this might affect you, because it actually, I think, is relevant to every family. The black and white picture on my slide is of Betty. She was my grandmother's aunt. She was a patient at the Utah State Training School, which was part of the Utah State Hospital. She had Down syndrome and a seizure disorder. My grandmother talked about her a lot, and when Betty died at the age of 22, her family buried her next to their family plot. She was lucky because so many were not buried or even claimed by their family, like with their family. I am a big advocate for better inclusion, and I spend a lot of time educating, especially about disabilities and mental health. Sometimes I think we can distance ourselves from these topics and think, well, that's somebody else's problem, or it's not my family's. But the more I've gotten to talk with other people, every family has someone that could have ended up in an asylum during the early 20th century. For example, my grandmother had Alzheimer's and died in 2023. My grandfather had Parkinson's disease and died in 2024. My other grandfather had to have his leg amputated later in life and died in 2016. I have 2 children with autism and other family members that are neurodivergent, including myself, and many in my family have needed access at times to mental health care. All of these family members could have easily ended up in the Utah State Hospital. The death certificates I looked at often listed similar kinds of conditions. And so if you have had anyone that has experienced something similar or even was just different, your ancestor could have ended up there. Out of the 662 patients that were in these unmarked graves, and after getting them on family search or just making sure they were there, I realized a problem or pattern that was happening, and that was that many were not connected to their parents. In fact, 331 of those patients were not. We didn't know who their parents were. There is a virtual memorial page on Find a Grave for the Utah State Hospital Forgotten Patients Cemetery Project. This was when they were able to identify and create this memorial, and they put a virtual memorial. And I've learned several people have been passionate about this, which is so cool. But the obstacle was that the record that had been found in the first place, that it was a death record that identified them, it listed their parents not known. So it was very difficult to kind of figure out where to start with that research. As you see above, this is a cropped image from a patient at the Utah State Hospital named Dan Cole, and her parents and parents' birthplace are listed as not known. Sorry, excuse me, not known. They didn't have relatives that visited or gave information is likely the reason. And often a lot of these patients had memory difficulties or other mental health concerns. And so that's likely why they didn't know who they were. The biggest research tool became newspapers and hints from death records. There is a very big research log on my computer now, using different types of research, including basic record searches on Family Search, because a lot of times there were duplicates that we were able to find and merge together. So those did help a lot. A lot of times people would use nicknames or aliases. And so we were able to merge several through research, and then we would find the family. The death records had hints that helped us, like seeing their birth location sometimes was listed, and so that helped give a hint. Sometimes it also listed a married name, or we could see that they were married. Newspaper records are really interesting on what they would write about back then. Talking about specific people getting mental health care would never happen now, but it was talked about very specifically and very personally in the newspaper. And it was even expected to hear about patients that were being committed, that people would go look for that in the newspaper. So this would often lead us to family members or hints on finding them. I can't tell you like how good it feels to find somebody's parents and connect these people back to their family tree. So, they're not a forgotten branch anymore, and that people can really learn about them. One of the people I found was a Jenny Sewell. I had connected with her story early on. She was in the newspaper a lot. She put her son in an orphanage when she was committed, and then her ex-husband came from another state and picked him up, but we couldn't find her parents. After an extensive amount of research, we found mention of a brother, and that led us to her maiden name and to the parents, and we were able to get her entire family connected and put on Family Search. I didn't do this alone, especially during the fall semester. My mom volunteered, and she was amazing. She didn't know tons about genealogy research or anything, but she did have some skills established, and she was very passionate about it. She said at one point, "Catherine, this is addicting." She helped connect so many families together with me and has continued to work on it as well. I also taught a young women's youth group about my project, and they had tons of fun looking up newspaper articles for me. I would definitely recommend that as a youth activity in the future. Through a lot of research, we were able to find the parents of 51 individuals so far, which is cool. We also have 65 promising leads for others, so we will continue working on that. The impact sometimes doesn't feel as big as other projects because the numbers are not super high. This is a really research-intensive project, but that's 51 families, and I feel really good about what we accomplished. For future goals, I am hoping to have at least half of the 331 solved by 2026. And I am planning to start also finding at least one more asylum cemetery outside of the state. And so we will work on 2 projects at a time with just the time we have on the side. If anyone is interested in making a difference and this project really spoke to you, I would recommend the following things. If you have Utah ancestry, you could look through the 600 plus names from the Utah State Hospital, and you can see if you may be related to someone who was buried in these graves. You can find that memorial on Find a Grave, and then you can just search by surname. You can look for other asylum cemeteries or something similar in your state or an area that you are from and try to see if all of them have been identified or are listed. You can also share about your ancestors' stories that have to do with disability and mental health, as well as your own, to help others feel comfortable accepting and sharing those in their families, and really accepting those forgotten branches too. There is still a stigma, and some don't want to talk about these things, which is why some of these people have been continued to be forgotten on those trees. So last, I would just love to, if you want to reach out and talk more about the subject, I would love that. Thank you for letting me take the time to kind of share this project with you. I hope it helped a little bit with information on asylum and hospital research for patients in the early 20th century. Thank you.
Catherine, thanks. That was fantastic. Are there any questions for Catherine?
I don't have a question, but I just would like to make a comment. I got to be Catherine's mentor in the community tree building project, and this is such a tender project. It always just hits me because you feel like you don't do a lot. But it's about the one, and they wouldn't be on there without you and without you caring. I have a similar cousin that I just found out passed away who was the same age as my brother, and he was not on the tree, and I was able to add him. And only because I kept watching for his death record because his mom and dad have passed away and his cousins aren't very communicative. So anyway, great project. Thank you for your suggestions too on how to make a difference. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Nancy. I miss seeing you.
And then, Catherine, one question I had, it sounded like newspapers helped a ton.
Mhm.
What other things did you find helped break through some of those brick walls that you encountered with the cemetery records?
So specifically with newspapers, learning different keywords to add in there made a big difference. Like I said, a lot of them used aliases, different names. I had to be very creative in which words I would search. So sometimes just using the last name, sometimes just using the first name, along with making sure that we include the word asylum in there. Or, I learned some of the keywords that were committed was often included in most of those newspaper articles that kind of helped. And then when I found nicknames or things like that, we made sure to note those and try different variations of names. So I would say that that was probably the most helpful when it came to newspaper research, is just learning how to make sure that search query, is that the word query, is you've got enough keywords in there. And then I think, as we were looking through, there was a lot of times when we were merging on Family Search and we did end up finding that person, we just had the wrong name. And so I would say really doing a good basic search on Family Search and doing it often, because sometimes things change because other people add new things, which is cool.
Any other questions for Catherine? You can just use the raise hand feature. I guess one other short question I had, now that you've linked them to families, you probably know now where they're from. Is your sense that they're coming from all over Utah, or was it pretty local, or?
Most of these ones, especially the ones that didn't have parents connected, that's what we worked on, I find were outside of Utah. And that's
Okay.
why it was a challenge, is that a lot of them moved to Utah and then ended up, for whatever reason, being committed to the hospital, and they didn't have parents or family nearby. So that's why they weren't claimed, or we didn't know who their parents were. So a lot were outside of Utah. There were some that were in Utah, but most were out. And there are still several that we're trying to solve that are out of the country, that definitely came from another country and settled in Utah, but didn't have other family members. And so that's been a challenge.
Cool. Well, thanks, Catherine. And we'll have some more Q&A at the end, but Simona, if you're ready, I think we'll pass it off to you.
The raise hand feature is not there. Just
Oh,
one
is it
quick,
not? Okay, go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
yeah, one quick comment. You use the term neurodivergent. There may be a number of people that don't know what that means, and that could be helpful. And well, obviously, it's very helpful in what you were pursuing. You might want to explain that real quick.
Sure, yeah. So neurodivergent just means having kind of a different mind that works differently. So I have a diagnosis, for example, of ADHD. And so my mind works a little bit different. So anyone who has kind of just a different brain would probably be included in that group. My two sons that are autistic also would be included in that. They definitely just, their minds work a little different. So anyone in that group.
Catherine. Okay, Simona, go ahead. You're up. Your turn.
Okay, thank you. I'm very touched by the second presentation. So can you see my presentation?
Yeah, just hit, I think if you go display settings and maybe, because right now we are seeing your notes. However you did it before was probably
Okay.
better. Maybe it's hide presented
Yes,
view.
yes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Different.
You're good. Yeah, just you can just reshare. So,
Okay. Can you see my presentation now?
so hit share again. I think somehow it stopped sharing.
Okay. Okay. So I'm Simona. I'm from Italy.
So Simona, sorry, really quick. Just try sharing. I don't
Oh,
think we can
I'm
see your
trying.
screen just yet. Yeah, just try reactivate it again.
Okay. Answer. Okay. Oh, yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Oh, now it's okay. Okay.
Awesome. That looks great. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Simona. I'm very happy to see Nancy and also Heather. And Nancy was my tutor, so I'm very happy to see you. So I'm from Italy. I'm from Prato, a city very close to Florence, and this is my project. I created this project during my Family Search Community Tree Building project in the spring semester 2024. So as you can see from the picture, the focus of this project is Gavorrano. Gavorrano is a little medieval town in the south of Tuscany. It's surrounded by amazing landscapes, and also the coast is my favorite one. It's really amazing. And I chose to do this project because Pietro, the groom in the picture, is my father, and he died when I was a child. And I have just few pieces of information about him and his family, and so I think I knew is that he was born with his twin. In the picture, you can see they are very different. They were born in Gavorrano. Really, they lived in Gavorrano. And they were born in Massa Marittima, the place I think at that time was the one with the hospital. So I knew from my aunt that they lived there with their family, and that my family from this side were from Sicily. They moved in the Gavorrano area just because they were looking for a job. They were miners, so there was an important mine that opened in that time in the area. So they moved from Sicily. So the goal of this project is to reveal the story of them and also of other people that moved from Sicily, from the south of Italy, other region of Italy, and also from Europe. And this migratory flow was made by families. So around the mines, they were built schools and houses, so the community grew around the mine. So the mine was opened in 1898 and closed in 1981. So this period was important for my family. So I focused my research on this this period. So my project is made of 3 parts. Is made by images from the Caldana. Caldana is a district of Bravurano, and also from Index project of Bagni di Camorrano. And the part I love the most is the Funday grave part, and I'll show you why. So the first part of the images project was very interesting because the records, the sheets inside of the collection were mixed up. So the spreadsheet was very useful because we helped us to bring order in the collection, in the records. So I hope to share this document one day because I think it could be very useful for people who are searching those collections. So the index part is a part I created because I wanted to involve the volunteers, between my volunteers that had a lower level of expertise. So it was the easier part of my project, but also was very interesting to me because I had the opportunity to teach them about the first linker and also how to add people unconnected on the tree, and also because was focused on my last name and its variation, Ferrara and Ferraro. So, okay. This part is the one I love the most because it's the part I have to work with a lot because it's made by a memorial I created on Find a Grave by picture I took with my children and with my family when I visited the area in the summer 2023 and 2024. So it was very funny because we all together with my children and my husband, we visited cemeteries um, and also the town, monuments, museums, and also the mine. We visited. We had a guided visit into the mine, so it was very interesting. And also, I discovered that a list of workers of the mine exists, and it's not so easy to reach to obtain this list, but I will work on this. So in this picture, you can see the stones, memorial stones I found. The one above is the one I found in the square in the town in Gavorrano. Is a memorial square. This is a list of all the fallen in the mine while working. So it's a very long list, and unfortunately they didn't put a date here. But the other stone, the one below, is another stone I found in the Gavorrano Cemetery. Isn't readable, especially to the picture. But when I was there in the cemetery, I recorded my voice while reading all these names and the date of the death of the persons, the people. And I was stopped while reading because I realized that many persons died the same day because probably a big accident in the mine. So was a very touching experience for me, and it made me feel very close to those people. So we added a little more than 1,000 names to the tree with my 11th volunteer, 7 from Italy, 5 from USA. So I had friends and family members that helped me. So I had to teach them into languages. I realized many explanation videos into languages. So was a very uplifting experience for many reasons. So we felt very close while working together to this project, and also was a great experience because we worked on the same collection for months. So we started to be very familiar with the person that lived in that period in that area. So we started to see family growth. So children by children that we added in the family, and also I added to the tree also the godfathers and mothers, and often I saw that the same godfather later started his own family. So, and maybe I discovered that were relatives. So was beautiful because it made me feel I was there. There were really persons and families. So this is an ongoing project for me too, and there's a lot of things I have to do, many records, also things that I want to discover in the field. I want to visit the area again with my family, and so I am very grateful for the experience because it was a way I had to discover more about my roots and about the place where my family lived. And so I felt very, very close to them. So thank you very much for your attention. Oh, you're muted.
You're on mute, Joe.
So Simona, I loved, and if others have questions, definitely raise your hand. I love the pictures in your presentation.
Oh,
In the
thank
course of the
you.
project, were you able to figure out who the people were in the photographs, or did you already know that beforehand?
Okay, those pictures were from the person from the picture are my family. Yes, so I had those pictures from my mother.
Okay,
Yes.
that's cool. Other
But
questions for Simona? Oh yeah, go ahead.
no, yes, I love the last picture, the one where my mother and my dad were spouses, because all the siblings of my father in that picture, but they fight a lot, so we're
Mhm.
very divided. So I I I couldn't hear story of my family from them because one of them, the queen of my father, lived in Spain, the other brother in France, the sister in the north of Italy. So it's very symbolic for me that picture.
Cool. And then I really loved how you got the death info from the mine monuments, because
Yes,
we always look for death records in particular places. And I thought it was clever that you found another place where those records, kind of like how
yes,
Catherine had found it in newspapers, you found a
yes.
clever way to get that. And
Was very exciting to find that stone. Yes, because I visited many cemeteries, and when I found that stone, I was very excited. So
that's cool. Awesome. Any other questions or comments for Simona?
I would just like to say, Simona, that it was great hearing your presentation again and connecting with you. And are you still doing that volunteer project where you're getting volunteers to index Italian records over there?
sorry, say it again.
Okay.
Sorry.
The volunteer project that where you were working in that repository,
Yeah.
and are you still doing that where you're getting volunteers
Yes,
to index Italian records?
yes, both of them, because I'm working to another project now because my son will have a mission in Vanuatu. So I started that project. And also I'm indexing Italian parish records, yes, from a city in Tuscany and other things. Yes, but I want to go forward with the Lavorano project. I stopped for a while, but
Yeah.
it is the one in my heart, so I want to proceed with that.
Has your son left for Vanuatu yet? Is he there?
Not really.
Okay.
Maybe in springtime, May or June.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Simona. We might have some more questions at the end, but let's pass it off to Shelly. So Shelly's going to be our third presenter, and Shelly, I've made you a co-host, so you can go ahead and share your screen.
All right. Let me go ahead and do this in presenter mode here. First, I have to say how fun it's been here tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity of hearing these projects. They've been extremely inspiring. And I appreciate Dr. Joe having this format and giving us opportunities to share. I think the common link of our presenters is Nancy Miles. I think she got us all into this tonight. So thank you, Nancy, for giving us the opportunity to present. And it's really fun to see some of my former VROC BYU friends here today. It's just so fun to see your faces. They've been inspiring to me. So we're all playing a part in growing the family tree, and I think all of our efforts are appreciated. I may not be adding thousands of names to the tree like I used to be doing in the VROC BYU, but I think the efforts that we're all making are blessing lives. I know that they're blessing lives in the individuals that I have been serving, and I am extremely grateful for that opportunity. I was blessed to come from a family history sharing family. Both of my parents shared stories with us about our ancestors, and we came to know our ancestors not only from their names and their dates and their places, but more importantly, we learned them through their stories. Their stories have inspired me and have strengthened me. This is a cherished picture that we have in our home. The baby there is my mother. And my mother told me that she was profoundly influenced by her great grandmothers that are sitting on the side of her as she listened to their pioneer stories. They made a tremendous impact in her life. Because of this gift that I received from my parents, I have developed a great desire for people to be remembered. So capturing people's stories has always been a passion of mine. I've enjoyed helping family members and friends and many others preserve their stories. This summer, I had the opportunity of leading a humanitarian mission to Rwanda, and one of our main duties there was to gather the family histories of these sweet people. This is what I'm here to talk to you about today. But first, I'd like to give you a little bit of background. I've been involved in this humanitarian organization, both as an employee and also as a volunteer for the past 14 years. And these are some of the areas where I've led humanitarian trips to. We provide a lot of valuable service, but my very favorite thing that we do is help these villagers preserve their family histories and stories. I believe that valuing family history is something that we share with so many cultures around the world. There's an African proverb that says, when an old man or woman dies, a library is burned to the ground. And this is certainly the case in the places that we have served. Most, if not all, of the family information is passed on only orally. So preserving these family histories and their stories play a key role in the places that we're serving. These stories unite and influence all of us. Many of you know that in 1995 or 4, there was a genocide that happened in Rwanda. And in a nutshell, basically what happened is the Hutu population was trying to annihilate and eliminate the Tutsi population. And approximately 1 million Rwandans were brutally killed during that 100 days during the genocide. This was a time of immense sorrow for their country, but it was also a period of time that was marked by remarkable resilience. Their collective spirit of forgiveness and the support that they've had for one another has been instrumental in rebuilding the trust and the unity that they have in their country. Prior to our trip, I had the opportunity of adding hundreds of Rwandan names to the family tree. Not only their vital information, but I also added photos to the memory section when the photos were available. These are some of the sweet people, just a few of them, that I was able to add to the tree. At the beginning of our humanitarian mission, we took the opportunity to visit the Genocide Memorial Museum. And it was a good way for our team to learn about the genocide and to honor these great people. During that visit, I found myself alone in this room that you see pictured on the bottom left here. And this room is filled with literally hundreds of pictures of the people that are buried there at this Genocide Memorial Museum. The room is just covered around with pictures. And this room became a very sacred time for me as I was alone there, like I said, because many of the pictures of the people that I entered into Family Search were listed there. I saw their pictures. And it was special to me because although they were being honored in such a beautiful way here in the Genocide Memorial Museum, they were also being honored on the family tree. They now have an important place on God's tree, a place that they will always be remembered. And I am so grateful for that. While we were there, we had opportunities to conduct 50 interviews in a little village in Ramagana, Rwanda. We were able to preserve valuable family history information as well as describe and preserve their histories that we obtained through the interviews. We worked with our in-country coordinator and the village leader to help us find people that had an interest in preserving this information. And then at the end of the trip, each of the families were presented with a book that included their family tree, their photos, and the histories. Prior to our trip, we trained our team, and I just need to back up a little bit and let you know that our teams consist of youth. So many of the teams that I have led are 43 people, and most of them are youth with maybe a handful of adult mentors. So it was important for us to train them. This particular mission was a little bit different. It was a friends and family trip. And so we were able to have youth join our team that were even actually younger than high school age. Most of the youth were high school and college age, but this time we were able to have some youth serve with us that were elementary age. And that was really fun for them. But we taught our team about the importance of respecting the person's right of privacy. We taught them about the importance of obtaining permission forms so that we could share the information. We taught them how to interview. We taught them how to document the information. We taught them how to take proper photos, and we taught them how to preserve the recordings. And then we had an opportunity to teach them about Family Search, so that they knew where they could pull up this information and where it would be stored. These are just a few of the people that we served, and I have been so touched as I have transcribed their stories. I've learned so much from them about the power of love and forgiveness and reconciliation. We heard from genocide survivors, perpetrators, soldiers, and refugees. Because our time is very brief, I'll just share one story, but they all are really quite magnificent. For my BYU friends, this is a story you haven't heard, so you don't have to you don't have to excuse yourself. This is JP, and JP and his family were Tutsi, which meant that they were part of the targeted group. JP was one of our interpreters. When he was born, his father wanted to name him Chaka, which means shining. I thought this would have been a very appropriate name for JP because he is a man of light and goodness. He's such a good man. I mean, you can't just see his smile and not smile yourself. He's just a really good man, and I love him. Our hearts have been knit together. He calls me Mom, and I call him my son. And we continue to keep in touch, and we're having him come visit us in April. So we're really excited about that. JP's mother, however, won that naming battle. You'll see these names, Jean-Pierre or JP is his given name, and this Neo Mumbai is his Christian name. They don't really have surnames, which makes it a little bit difficult. But Neo Mumbai means God is the parent. And you'll see that this was a very inspired name from his mother. When JP was just 4 years old, his mother died, and he was taken to be raised by his grandmother. When JP was only 7 years old, the genocide began. One day, his family learned that a large group of soldiers were coming to kill his family. And a man who was a friend of the family asked JP, or asked the family if he could take JP, because he thought, you know, if we get the family separated, maybe they'll have a better chance of survival. So his grandmother reluctantly agreed, and JP left with his neighbor. Remember, he's only 7. That would have been very, very scary. On the run, they arrived at a mountain, and many Tutsi were finding refuge there. The soldiers unfortunately caught up to them, and his neighbor knew that they were going to be killed. So the neighbor told JP, I'm going to run as fast as I can to the front, and I want you to run as fast as you can to the back when you see me start to run. JP fortunately obeyed his neighbor, and his neighbor was shot and killed. But JP was able to escape because of this sweet neighbor. JP ran and fell into a deep hole, and he spent 2 days in this hole. And after those 2 days, he climbed out and he saw hundreds of dead bodies surrounding him. And so he began to run again, and he came to a small home and went inside, and he saw that there were many people that were there hiding, and they were crying. But soon the militia found him in this home. And the soldiers came in, and they closed all the windows, and they closed all the doors, and they poured fuel inside of the home and lit the home on fire so that they all would be burned to their death. But miraculously, at one point, somehow one of the people in the house managed to kick the door down, and they were able to escape. JP knew that God had saved them. At this point, the whole household was on the run, and the militia caught up to them again and told them that they were all going to be killed. But when they saw JP, one of the soldiers said, "This boy is very black like me. I cannot kill somebody that resembles me. He is very young. Let him go. I cannot kill him." These are just a few of the many, many miracles that happened to preserve his life. Unfortunately, JP later learned that every person in his family was killed during the genocide. As heartbreaking as this is, JP is grateful for all of the people who have cared for him and supported him. And again, you've just heard just a few of the examples. He recognizes that he would not be the person that he is today without them. JP has graduated from the University of Kigali. He is now an engineer. He has a wife and 2 children, and he says that he now feels hope. He says, and I quote, "Many of the people that killed my family have completed their prison terms. I know them, I see them. Forgiving is not simple, but I have forgiven them. I fear that if I don't forgive them, I may become like them. I have charity towards them. The only solution or answer is to forgive." He's pretty amazing, isn't he? What I've learned from these sweet people, the Rwandan people, is that they were masters of love. I've served in a lot of places around the world, and There's something really special about the Rwandan people. They taught how to feel, give, and express it. They also showed us how to forgive. They experienced forgiveness on a level that is extraordinary. It is really quite powerful. Learning about others gives us insight into how we can better endure our own challenges of our own lives. And a simple family record can influence descendants for generations to come. Now, just because people are interested, I'm going to share briefly some of the other projects that we do on these humanitarian trips, but I'm going to zip through these slides very, very fast because that isn't the purpose of this meeting, but people always want to know. So we have had opportunities to have many cultural experiences. We do opening and closing ceremonies together. We did a community mural together. We put on a fun fair for the children that were in the village there. We had an opportunity to build a home for one of the genocide survivors. This little lady, the lady that you see in the upper left-hand corner, her name is Maria, and she has been homeless with her daughter since 1994. So fortunately, with the community, we were able to build her a home, and it was such a joyful day to see her be able to walk into her home that she owns at this time. We also had opportunities to teach in the classroom. We taught women how to sew. It's important for them to learn a business skill so that they can use this business skill to make money in their communities. We also taught business lessons and were able to give business grants to 4 different businesses in this particular village. We also had a medical seminar where we put on a seminar that taught first aid, men's, women's health. And then we had a closing ceremony where we were able to exchange our love and appreciation for one another. Next year, my husband and I will have the opportunity of serving in a lovely community in Fiji. And this is part of the island that we're going to be serving in was destroyed by a cyclone. Again, gathering family information and taking these oral histories will be a big focus in our mission. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. It's been a joy to be with you tonight. It's been a joy to hear from the other presenters. It's been a joy to speak on something that I truly love. And I just want you all to know that I appreciate it.
Thanks, Shelley. That was fantastic. And feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. But Shelley, I was going to ask, as a father of youth, you're training these youth to do these oral histories. What would be something we could teach youth here in the US to do an oral history in our own communities or when they travel or?
Yeah, I am so grateful that you brought that out because I think the thing that I really want our youth to take away from this is that this is something that they can do in their own homes, in their own neighborhoods. And when we take opportunities to preserve these histories, we really are preserving histories and memories for generations to come, memories that matter, right? Again, not just the names and dates that are on the page, but like I mentioned at the very beginning, the stories that matter to us and help us really know who our ancestor is. And I think all of our youth can learn this. This is a skill that they all can learn. Yeah, I know that the new conference that's coming up, Roots Tech, they'll have a lot of wonderful things on there. I'm more than happy to talk to different youth groups and things and help them understand how they can preserve their histories or share information with their loved ones. This is something that I think that all the kids from our teams have taken back with them to the United States is, they need to preserve this information for their own teams or their own family. My boss, he asked me if I would preserve his history of his grandmother, and she was 99 years old. And I said, yes, I'd be so happy to do that. And I was able to help preserve that history for him. And just 3 months later, she passed away. But during that time, you know, she had all of her faculties together. She was remembering things so well. And he cried to me and said, Shelley, I can't thank you enough for capturing these memories, because these memories are going to benefit the rest of our family for the rest of our lives. So these are the things that youth and all of you, really all of you, can do. I would really recommend that you share your own story and make sure that you start sharing some of these stories of your ancestors with your own kids. Let them learn, like my parents taught me. Let them learn to love them and appreciate them.
Thanks, Shelley. Well, we have a few minutes here at the end, and you're welcome to raise your hand and ask questions to any of the presenters, for Shelley or Catherine or Simona, and you can raise your hand or even just find some other way to signal you have a question or comment. And so,
I'll just say hi to Shelley. She lives 2 blocks away from me, and we have to connect virtually. Um, Thank you for the inspiring message to do our own histories. I love my ancestors' stories. I cherish them, and then I started thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't written my own. So, and my parents didn't write theirs. So, but now I've learned that I can pretty much construct something for their posterity that they didn't write from just little bits that they shared. So thanks for that, getting me going. Love your presentation.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for
But,
giving me the opportunity.
yeah, go ahead, Linda. It looks like you have a question.
Shelley, do you have an outline or a template for how you trained the youth that you would be willing to share? Because I think I had to do a personal history for my mom for a class I was taking, and it was so hard to know where to start and how to organize that effort.
Yes, and I gladly share. So I've just put my information in the chat. So my email. So Linda, please connect with me and I will share you my template, my questions. I'll share
Okay.
with you like the recorders that I like to use. I'll share with you even how I train people. I love to share because we want people's histories to get recorded. So anybody that would love to reach out to me, again, it's in the chat and you're welcome to reach out and I'll gladly share.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I do. I'm Lisa Stoner.
Yeah.
I have a question. I know it's not really related to internship, but I noticed that the women were sewing on treadle sewing machines. How did you acquire those, or how did they acquire them for them?
Yes, most of the places that we serve actually don't have electricity. So they're hand powered or foot pedaled machines. And we actually work with our in-country coordinator to purchase those machines. And then we teach the women how to sew using those particular machines. The machines that you saw actually can be used both by hand, foot, or through electricity. So most of the countries that we serve in actually have access to those machines, and we just purchase those machines through them.
Oh, okay. Because I'm a collector, and I have like 6 treadle machines.
Yeah, very, very cool. Unfortunately, I don't have one here in the United States. We usually get them across seas.
Okay. I had heard at one point that they were trying to ship some of them over there, but it was too expensive.
We did in our early days try to ship, and you're right, it's way too expensive and too problematic. So we just work with the in-country coordinators there to purchase the machines for us and then just work with the ladies once we get there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any last questions? Okay, well, I just want to thank all of our presenters. I thought that was fantastic. And, you know, one of the things we've always wanted to do with the Bridge Forum is make sure nobody gets missed. And so you saw Catherine, you know, finding those in these, you know, these cemeteries where we want to connect them back with their families. I thought that was just incredible to work with the state asylum, that kind of find a grave page. And Simona, I just love the idea of finding those people that died in the mining accidents and, you know, capturing that whole village. And then Shelley, I just love the fact that, I mean, it was kind of in your quote where you said that, you know, every time an older person dies, a library burns down. And I really sense the urgency to, you know, gather those libraries before they're gone. And then one other thing that touched me is I love that Catherine got her mom into family history. I just love it when, and then Simona, you saw the picture of her daughter and the word mom, I thought was cool. And I don't know, I love it when we gather the gatherers. And that's kind of another one of the themes we have as a Bridge Forum. So I just want to thank everyone for participating, and then we'll have our next meeting in February. So great. Thanks, everyone.
See you so much.